Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Zombicide unboxing. Mostly. So this is for the Iron Maiden packs. As you can see, I got 3 of them here. Each one has a bunch of different miniatures in there. Um, so each of the 2 boxes, pack 1 and pack 2, each have 6 different, 6 different miniatures in there. From various different, basically the cover artworks of Iron Maiden. Now, right up front, I'll say I'm sure I've heard Iron Maiden before, but I'm not like some diehard fan. I love Zombicide. I have a bunch of the other CMON games as well, and these guys just look really awesome. So I'm like, that's what drew me to this. So I might not know all the references. I might not be as surprised or awesome by some of the artwork and all that. I mean, I love the artwork. I mean, I don't know the band, I don't know the music and the album. So yeah, so pack 1 and 2 each, you're gonna have 6 miniatures each with a bunch of different cards in them. I say it's kind of Zombicide because they have stuff. Almost every single character has miniature has a card for Zombicide second edition, so you can use it in them. Then they kind of split up from there. There will be some that'll have cards, so you can use them in Black Plague. Some that can use them in Zombicide Invader. Some that can be used in Zombicide Undead or Alive, which is the Western one. So it's kind of whatever theme they sort of fit in there. And then some of the games, some of them also have cards for Ankh, Gods of Egypt, Cthulhu, Death May Die, Massive Darkness 2, and possibly Rising Sun. 4 other games by CMON Games, who make Zombicide. So it's kind of neat because they, rather than releasing a bunch of different versions, they just made these so you can buy, hey, you're getting these for Zombicide. Great, you own these other games? Awesome, you can use them in all of them. Now, we'll go through each box. This is going to be a 3-part video. We're going to do box 1, box 2, and then we'll do box 3. And then so we'll be jumping between all the different sets in each one. So if I look at, the Mummy, we'll go through all of his cards and stuff in that. I'll probably do those, show off all the miniatures first. Then I will go through all the cards so I don't have to keep trying to go back and forth between miniatures and all that. So that was box 1 and 2, and then box 3 has 2 bigger miniatures in it by themselves. But in video 3, we will also be going over the original Eddie, which is a pre-order exclusive, which is only good for Zombicide 2nd edition. But we'll go over his pack in the 3rd video as well, because he's such a limited release. Alright, so without further ado, we will hop into the first box. Alright, so this is Iron Maiden pack number 1. We are going to have, and I'll kind of show off the minis as well after this. We're going to kind of go through. So we have lifeless figures. They were undead, all of them. They had ascended from hell. More than Iron Maiden's mascot, Eddie is one of the greatest heavy metal icons of all time. This pack allows you to take on Eddie's various incarnations on epic adventures across the wide range of CMON games, including all areas of Zombicide. Whether playing as Eddie or facing against him as a vicious enemy, he brings a fully unique gameplay to everything he touches. So strike from the grave, for there's no turning back. So we will have, on the bottom here, we'll show each one they're good with and how they're used in there. So we have like Undead Eddie, who is from the album. That's the original. It's kind of neat to see what album they're from Live After Death. So he's good for Zombicide 2nd edition as a survivor and the Abomination, Undead or Alive, and Cthulhu Death May Die. Fear of the Unknown as an unknown monster. And I'm not going to go through and read through all of these, but we'll have Samurai Eddie from Senjutsu, Pharaoh Eddie from Power Slave, Reaper Eddie from Dance of Death, Trooper Eddie from The Trooper, and Cyborg Eddie from Somewhere in Time. So it's also neat is that some of these, besides working with other games, we have equipment cards as well. So that's really cool. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to look at all the miniatures first. And then we will hop into all the cards, so I don't have to keep going back and forth. So here is Undead Eddie. See if I can get this to focus. So there he is. He's crawling out of the ground with some like flames around him. So if you're familiar with the band and their albums, these are definitely all iconic images. Even if you're not, you've probably just seen these around. Some of these, somewhere, they're fairly iconic images, especially like horror images. You maybe see them in like a Hot Topic, or even like right now you go around, you see the Funko Pops with all of them. So there is Bursting Out of the Ground. Kind of more or less the more normal Undead Eddie version. Then we have Trooper Eddie, who's wielding a Confederate flag. So I'm going to do this quick. Let's drop him down. Let's put him back up. And then next to him, I will just kind of hold up the... So that's what he looks like. Just so we can kind of see a colored picture next to what he's supposed to look like. I do it as best as I can for these guys. Alright, so then we have Soldier Eddie. Oh, it's kind of, he's got like a broken wheel. He's got his Confederate flag. But he's like, yeah, Civil War soldier era. So there's his kind of picture behind him. Third one up, we will have is Samurai Eddie. So, for whatever reason, they did not make him playable in 2nd edition. I don't know why. But there's a samurai. He's kind of more of almost like a demon. He's got some broken armor below him. Multiple swords. Got some arrows back there. So there is his demonic vision. And then he also kind of flips you a little bit better picture from there too. Then we have Cyborg Eddie. Yeah, the pictures here, I can't always see what's on the bottom. But yeah, he's got some like holsters built in. There's a hand creeping out of the ground. Got some like laser rifles. So there's his image. I can't imagine painting these. These would be a pain. I give credit to anyone that can paint these guys. We got more of a simplistic one. We have Reaper Eddie. Just want to use the Grim Reaper. It looks like there's a snake on the ground. I like that there's even a little bit of wear on the scythe. It's like maybe an Aztec mask. But there's his Reaper picture. And then the last one we have is Pharaoh Eddie, which is a big honker. So yeah, then he's on his throne. He's got a scarab in the back, some different pictures. Even cool because I designed all the back around him. So there's his. Even like this one's kind of crazy because that's like a pyramid up into him, as opposed to him being like a guy sitting on a giant throne. Alright, so there's our miniatures. We're going to pull them back down. I'll kind of have them maybe off to the side here a bit, but I'm not going to zoom back up for each one. And we'll go ahead and start looking at the cards. If you've seen my other Zombicide videos, know this will be probably a little bit long because I will be trying to go through all the different abilities. But I think I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go through all of their, for each series first. So we'll go through 2nd edition, and then anyone that are in Undead or Alive, or each Zombicide series at a time. So this is one thing that's really cool about all of these characters and all these sets, is their basic blue ability is either based on an album they're in, or a song, or some of the lyrics. So they all get special abilities. So I can't actually look those up, so we actually have to flip these over to see what the first ability does. So we have Undead Eddie has Die with Your Boots On. Each time a rush card is drawn from the zombie pile, you may immediately perform a free combat action before the rush action is resolved. So this is very much like Zombie Link, except Zombie Link, I think, gives you a free extra turn, where this one just gives you Zombie Link only works in extra activations. This does not work with Rush. So this is the only one that works with Rush. So it's kind of a little bit different. So again, it might not hit all the time, but it's definitely a neat idea. He's also going to have matching set as long as we're on the side. So whenever you draw an equipment card with the dual symbol during a search action, you may immediately take another card from the same type from the equipment deck. That's his first orange ability. And then Scavenger will let him search any areas. You can search out on the street or wherever. So that's definitely cool too. Then he has +1 damage for melee, distributor, and escalation melee. So yeah, I didn't really go through the books for these, because like for most of these guys, they're gonna play the same way, but we'll kind of go over the rules when we need to. So escalation melee is a fun ability. So that says survivor gains 1 extra action dice for consecutive actions of a specific type. So every time he performs an additional melee attack, he gains an additional die. It applies until the end of the turn or if it performs an additional action. And then Distributor says when resolving spawn step during the zombie phase, draw as many zombie cards as there are active spawn zones, which is a zombie card, and then assign one of them to each spawn zone. So you get to look at all the cards and decide where to put them. So instead of just drawing one, oh, I got an Abomination here, or I got 2 Brutes here, or I got 8 Walkers here, you can decide which order they go in. So that is definitely an interesting ability. It kind of makes sense. He's kind of linked with zombies because he's undead. So you kind of just to play with them. Alright, up next we're going to look at Trooper Eddie's card. Run to the Hills. So Trooper Eddie's Run to the Hills says whenever you enter a zone, roll 1 die. On a 4+, eliminate 1 walker there. If there are none, eliminate 1 runner there. That's cool. So you get like a free first strike kill, basically. Potentially. Yes, you still get a 4+, but you get an option of getting rid of someone for it. So sort of like the last one, it's very specific on how it's going to work, but I think that makes these guys a little bit more interesting. Because they're not just your run-of-the-mill, hey, this should be for everybody. These are going to be specific use abilities, make the guys a little bit harder to play as. In orange, we have 1 free melee action and charge. Charge will let you move. For free, you can move up to 2 zones containing at least 1 zombie. So basically, you get a free move action, but you have to end a zone with zombies. And red, he has 1 free combat action. Boring Leader, which lets him give an action to another survivor. They immediately take the action, then he resumes his turn. And Brothers in Arm, +1 die for combat. Brothers in Arm is, of course, makes sense for a military guy. Really fun ability. As long as he's in the same zone as another survivor, him and all the survivors in that zone have +1 die for combat. The downside is, if he's by himself, the ability turns off. So it's a little of a double-edged sword. Now, again, we're going to end up skipping Samurai Eddie, because he, for some reason, didn't get a card for this. Maybe I just figured Samurais don't make any sense in traditional Zombicide. I mean, I guess if you're, I would say to an extent, if you're looking at the fact that Zombicides currently tend to take place in, the modern ones, tend to take place in cities. You could have an undead character, you could have, oops, I grabbed the wrong one. You could have, all these other characters appear, but I guess having a samurai maybe rise from the grave. A Confederate guy could rise from the grave, but maybe not a samurai? I don't know. Alright, we have Cyborg Eddie here with Infinite Dreams. Should we flip that over and we see what that does? All your ranged attacks have infinite range and are not limited to range 0 to 1 when tracing lines through sites through buildings. That's nuts. You can take any weapon and shoot basically anywhere with it. That's really cool. That's always the fun part about these expansion sets, kind of like the Kickstarter stretch goals, is the characters can be a little overpowered, which is definitely fine. In orange, we have 1 free ranged action and escalation range, so it keeps getting dice every time you use ranged attacks. Ambidextrous, full auto, and regeneration. Regeneration just means that at the end of his turn, he goes back up to full health. Full auto says when resolving a ranged action, the survivor may substitute the dice number of the ranged weapons they use for the number of zombies standing in the target zone. Skills at +1 dice still apply. So that's actually kind of cool, because that means if normally his attack would only roll 2 dice, but there's 4 zombies, he can instead roll 4 dice. So that can become very powerful, especially when he has infinite range. That's pretty awesome. And ambidextrous treats all weapons as if they had the dual symbol. So any of those bottom 3 could be very, 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 very powerful and useful abilities. Alright. Then let's hop into Reaper. Reaper Eddie here has Dance of Death. Dance of Death. So it starts with Reaper Scythe. While using the Reaper Scythe, you have the Reaper Melee. This skill can be used while assigning hits when resolving 1 melee action. One of these hits can eliminate an additional identical zombie. So he's going to start with the Reaper Scythe equipment card. Now it's always fun because you can just, you don't want to use this, you don't want to use Reaper Eddie, you can always just put this in any deck anyhow. This is an additional weapon. 0 range melee, of course. Rolls 2 dice, 4 accuracy for 2 hits. Makes no noise. So not super high powered, but it's going to do some decent damage. But it also means, so it's just a very generic-y type weapon for him. I mean, not super special or anything, or for anybody, but while he's using it, he also has Reaper Melee. So he gets a weapon and he gets that. His next ability he's going to get, we'll just read while we're on here, is he has Jump. Once during each of your turns, you may spend 1 action to move 2 zones, ignoring everything in an intervening zone except for walls, closed doors. Movement penalties still apply. So I love the fact that the Reaper has Jump. I think the idea is just supposed to mean that he can kind of pass through things as the thought process of it, but it's just the fact that it's called Jump. Then he has Tactician, which also was on the back, we just said. Turns can be resolved before any other player. So basically, he doesn't have to obey the rules for movement. He doesn't have to obey the rules of when he can take his turn. And then his red, he has 1 free melee action, Bloodlust, Melee, and Lucky. Lucky lets him reroll any dice every time he takes an action. So yeah, that's kind of fun as well. He can just keep, I don't like that roll, I'll try it again. Then he also has Bloodlust, Melee, which says survivor can use the skill once per each of their turns. Survivor spends 1 action and they may move up to 2 zones containing at least 1 zombie. Then they get 1 free action of their specified type. So you spend 1 action for basically a free movement attack. So you're combining your movement and your attack, but you have to do both. But yeah, when he has Reaper Melee as well, so he can move 1 action to move, attack, kills a walker or a runner or whoever, and all of a sudden now he gets to kill another one for free. It's a pretty good combo. And since he starts with a weapon already, and hopefully by the time he gets to red, he has other weapons, but that's what it is. Alright. And then going back, we have the Pharaoh. It's our last 2nd edition card. He has Power Slave. Which Power Slave says, once during each of your turns, you may spend 1 action to move all zombies at 1 range and line of sight 1 zone away. So basically, spend 1 action to just push all zombies away from him. Get people away. Just kind of fun. He also has the ability is that all you've got. Anytime you're about to endure a wound, you may negate 1 wound for each equipment discarded from your inventory. And that's the second orange ability. Oh, it says 1 free ranged action. In red, Born Leader. Makes sense. Brothers in Arms, +1 die for range, and Webbing. Webbing lets him treat all items in his inventory as if they're in his hand. So yeah, he's kind of a neat guy. He can tell people what to do. He can give people extra dice. He can use whatever weapons he wants. Push people away. Discard items. They to not take damage. Very solid. I don't know, direct, you need to play him this way necessarily. Just kind of interesting. Alright, then for the rest of that, we're just going to flip through. We have the Abomination cards for 2nd edition, which are just going to say, each have their own special abilities. So, and I'm not going to put each guy back up there for this, but Undead Eddie has spawns in a zone adjacent to the closest survivor. Players choose a zone and which survivor if tied. Other than that, these guys just have the standard Abomination rules. They can be killed with Molotovs or a hit of 3. Reaper Eddies is at the start of the zombie phase. The survivor in line of sight closest to him is eliminated. Players choose if tied. His attacks deal through 3 wounds, so Reaper Eddie is just straight up out to kill you. He sees you, he's going to take you out. If he happens to hit you, because he gets there, he's probably going to kill you anyhow. Pharaoh Eddie, he cannot move or attack. I love this. This is very interesting. He's a big, giant statue-looking guy. All zombies activate in a zone with no survivors perform... All zombies activating in a zone with no survivors perform 1 extra action. So basically, he's just going to sit at one spot, back on the board wherever he spawned, and he's going to tell everyone else to move more. So that means now you have to wade through all them guys to get to him to kill him. So instead of him hunting you down, you have to run. You have to try and get rid of him, or you have to face extras. Cyborg Eddie, his attack has a range of 0 to 2 and deals 2 wounds. So just, again, extra range and damage. And then Trooper Eddie has all non-abomination zombies in his zone need 1 extra damage to be eliminated. And then a survivor who eliminates Trooper Eddie takes 1 wound. So yeah, you want to get rid of them so your guys aren't taking extra damage, or dealing extra damage, or have extra health, I guess. But you're going to take a hit for doing it. So it's kind of a double edge there, which is always fun. Alright, so up next, we are going to have... looks like Undead or Alive. So, we'll flip back over to... this is the Western one. So if you're not familiar with the Western one, Zombicide, each player immediately has a special ability in the bottom here for what class they are. So townsfolk have Home Defender. They also have a special slot. They can hold a specific weapon, but they also have less health, generally. So these guys have 2 health if they're a home instead of 3. So they play a little bit differently. So if we flip over, Home Defender says line of sight are not limited to room zones. May search several times per turn. So it gives them 2 extra abilities to use just as that class. They kind of gave each survivor a different class to kind of give them a little benefit to start off. And then his Die With Your Boots on ability. Each time an extra activation card is drawn from the zombie pile, you may immediately perform 2 free combat actions before the activated zombies. So this, again, it worked very similar to his 2nd edition, but instead of rush, it's extra activation, and he gets 2 instead of 1 action. So it's kind of neat. They do change stuff from game to game. He will get Brawler in his orange, which Brawler says, just turns him into a Brawler. Survivor is now considered a Brawler in addition to their starting class. When this skill is acquired, the survivor's health is increased to 1 point, and they immediately heal 1 wound. So yeah, because they're a Brawler, they gain 1 extra thing. They also I think gain the charge ability as well. Which we'll look at in a minute. Or actually we can look at here. So charge says once per activation you may spend up to 1 action move up to 2 zones containing zombies and then perform a free melee action. Starts with 3 health. So the brawler, so that's kind of neat. You can turn him into a brawler class as well. He also gets Scavenger, which most of these work the same from game to game, but there's sometimes a little wordage difference. Scavenger may search in the street zones. Basic search is apply. In Rag, he has +1 damage for melee, 1 free combat action, or escalation melee. So it's going to be very similar to his previous version. So we kind of compare them. So they both have Scavenger, they both have damage melee, they both have escalation melee. They change a little bit. Matching set and distributor becomes some different stuff in there. That's kind of neat. Alright. Then we're going to look at Trooper Eddie. So Trooper Eddie has Run to the Hills. He's a brawler, so he gets that charge ability and 1 extra hit point to start, but he can only equip a melee weapon. We'll look at Run to the Hills in just a moment. We have 1 free melee action and Shove in orange. Shove lets you push any zombies from your zone into an adjacent zone for free. In Rag, 1 free combat action, Boring Leader, and Brothers in Arms, +1 die combat. So most of those all work the same. Run to the Hills says, whenever you enter a zone, roll 1 die. On a +4, eliminate 1 walker. If there are none, eliminate 1 runner. So it works very much the same. Does Boring Leader work the same in this game? Yes, works the exact same. Give them a free action, and then they may end their turn. Or then you may go back to that player's turn. So that's definitely... So yeah, we kind of compare these just as the two together. So charge becomes shove, and that's about the difference between them. So they stay pretty much the same. So those are the only 2 that we have for Undead or Alive. So we have Abomination versions. I think they play basically the same as the other one. Spawn in a zone adjacent to the closest survivor. And Trooper Eddie's is all non-Abominations in his zone need 1 extra damage, and if you eliminate him, he takes 1 wound. So the Abominations work not fairly the same, they work exactly the same. Alright. Then we are going to hop into the medieval times. And we are actually going to look at our first Samurai. So Samurai Eddie, so much like the Western ones, the Undead, or the Black Plague version, the fantasy version, they also have a spot up here. You either put a piece of clothing or a special weapon. It'll dictate what special weapon they can use. For him, it is specifically the Made in Japan, which is funny, like Iron Maiden, but also made in Japan. So look at that weapon quick. He doesn't have anything that starts with it, but that's what it specifically does. So it is a 0 range melee attack, does 3 dice, 3 accuracy, does 1 damage, makes no sound. Again, like the other weapons, kind of cool because you can just include it in another deck if you'd like. Alright, so he has a Flash of Blade. We're going to flip over, it's actually going to tell us what that does. Start with Made in Japan, so there we go. He starts with that, deals 2 damage to any zombie at range 1 and in line of sight for each 6 rolled on an attack. With Made in Japan, ignore target priority. So that's actually cool. So if you actually hit someone, for each 6 rolled on the attack, you deal 2 damage to any zombie at range 1. And you can target the biggest guys if you want, whoever. So that's definitely cool. You roll 3 dice normally, so you have a pretty decent chance of doing that. Then, if we looked at his other actions, he has Bloodlust, Melee, and Taunt. Taunt is always fun. So I'm just going to read that one off quick. Survivor can use this skill for free once during each of his turns. Select a zone your survivor can see. All zombies standing in the selected zone immediately gaining extra activation. They try to reach the taunting survivor by any means. Taunted zombies are all the survivors. Do not attack them. They do not attack them and cross zones of standing if needed. So that's actually fun. You kind of draw people towards you. And then he gets bonus for killing people with the sword that he starts with. So you taunt them towards them, then you can get free attacks on them and chase them down. In red, he has 1 free melee action, Reaper melee, and Slippery. Slippery lets you ignore zombies when you are trying to move or move through them. So not only can he bring them to them, if he needs to get away, he doesn't have to pay a penalty to do that. So that's definitely some interesting character for him. Alright, so our next version is going to be Reaper, Eddie. He may hold Reaper's Scythe instead. So he has Dance of Death, which is probably going to tell me we can start with that. So that's interesting, though, because that means his ability is the same. So it starts with Reaper Scythe. Well, using the Reaper Scythe, you have the Reaper Skill melee. All assigning hits resolve one melee. When resolving a melee action, one of these hits can freely eliminate an additional zombie in the same zone. So it's the same as his other one. So he just gets a Reaper Scythe that he can use in this game instead of the other one, which has the same basic stats as well. But yeah, always fun to have more items and equipment in game, so I'm never going to argue with that, again, even if you're not using these characters. He keeps Jump, he has Tactician, in red he has 1 free melee action, Bloodlust, Melee, and Legacy. So I think almost identical to his other one. Yep, same thing. So nothing new there. Which is fine, because that's the only reason they change most of these. Sometimes the rules or way the characters work in each game sometimes changes. So that's why they have to change some of these. So here we have Pharaoh Eddie. So instead, he may hold a Fireball, which is just one of the abilities. He has Power Slave. We'll look at that in a sec. We'll just kind of go through the rest. He's 1 free range action and Spellbook. Spellbook will let him, I believe, use any spells that are in his backpack. But let me double check. All combat spells and enchantments with the survivor's inventory are considered equipped in hand. Yep. So yeah, he just gets to use all his abilities at once. He's basically a spellcaster in this one. 1 free magic action, Born Leader, and Brothers in Arms ranged. +1 die for ranged. And then Power Slave says once during each of your turns, you may spend 1 action to move all zombies at range 1 and in line of sight 1 zone away. So the same as his other version. So if we compare that to the modern one, yeah, so a couple of things change. He keeps his Born Leader. Spellbook and Webbing just kind of are the same thing. Just change places where they're at. And instead of a free ranged action, it's just considered magic. Yeah. It still has this free ranged action. Is that all you've got? He changes out for magic action. So he changes a little bit, but it kind of more benefits that character. Alright, then we have some other really cool stuff for this one. We have 3 Abomination cards with the new backs in these. So these are the backs for Zombicide White Death. We have 2 Abominations, and we have a Necromancer. So as opposed to the original ones, which are all just if you're playing Black Plague or Green Horde, they're going to have this back. If you're using the White Death rules, they're going to have this back. Which is a really fun thing they started doing. So how this works is basically like this. The original rules, if you play the original zombie deck and add your corresponding zombie cards to the zombie deck, they follow the basic Abomination or Necromancer rules, and starts the special rules detailed in there. Playing with the new ones from White Death, the player plays a new separate Abomination Necromancer deck. Add your corresponding Abomination cards to the respective deck. They follow the basic rules. So essentially what the difference is the original one in the Green Horde and Black Plague, we have Reaper Eddie, who's card number 371, 72, 73, 74, and 75. 76. So we have 6 copies of him. This gets, if I'm going to play as Reaper Eddie, I shuffle those into the deck. They could get drawn, that's when he appears, as my Necromancer. It says at the start of the zombie phase, survivor in line of sight closest Eddie is killed, his attacks deal 3 wounds. So every time I draw him, if I get another one, he just activates another time. But you might not know when they're coming up. And then we're going to have the same thing with the Abominations. So we have Pharaoh Eddie with 77, 78, 79, 80. And then Samurai Eddie with 81, 82, 83, and 84. And both of them guys are going to have, they summon at yellow, red, and orange, but not in blue. So how those work is, again, the same way. If you draw them, that's when you summon them. You draw it again. If they're still out, they just get extra activations. How the new ones work is instead, in the deck, they will just have, in the deck with the zombies, instead of having 6 cards for each character, they will just have several Abomination cards. When you draw a card that says Abomination, you take your Abomination or Necromancer deck, as it would be, and you draw randomly a card from them. So the idea is, instead of having a giant deck clogged up with just one guy, you could have an Abomination deck that has 14 Abominations in it, but in your spawn deck, you could have 6 Abomination cards. So you could draw 6 different Abominations out of a deck of 14 cards. So it gives you, I think, more of an option without also making your deck super thick. So our Pharaoh Eddie, plus, this also gives the Abominations extra abilities. So, Abomination Pharaoh Eddie says he cannot move or attack. All zombies activating in a zone with no survivors perform 1 extra action. Samurai Eddie, his attacks deal 2 wounds at the end of the zombie phase. He eliminates the closest non-zombie. To deal... At the end of the zombie phase, he eliminates the closest non-Abomination zombie, deal 1 wound to the closest survivor in line of sight. Interesting. And then Necromancer Eddie, we already saw. Just kind of align them more with the 2nd edition zombies. Alright, so that is what we have for Zombicide, Black Plague, Green Horde, White Death. We are going to head into space and go into Invader. So we get our 2nd card for Samurai Eddie. Who has, again, lots of the same abilities. Flash of the Blade, Bloodlust, Melee, and Taunt. Free melee action, Reaper Melee, and Unstoppable. And Flash of the Blade says starts with Made in Japan, deals 2 damage to any Xeno, which are the alien abominations. The aliens, zombies, sorry. At range 1 in line of sight for each 6 rolled on attack with Made in Japan. So it's going to work the same way. We're just trading the word zombie for that. And there's Made in Japan for the fantasy. It's also an electric weapon, which is kind of nice. Has different effects in the game. So 3 guys, 3 accuracy, 1 damage. Again, extra weapons are always nice. Yeah, so I just wanted to compare that to the only other version we have. Bloodlust Melee, Taunt, Melee Action, Reaper. So he has Unstoppable instead of Slippery. So that's his one difference. Unstoppable says... Survivor does not spend extra action to perform a move action of a zone containing Xenos. Entering zone still ends the survivor's move. So it's the same thing as Slippery. Just they changed it to Unstoppable for this version of the game. Alright, then up next we have Cyborg Eddie, which also makes sense for space. Which I find this one very interesting because he has Virus, instead of his other one called Infinite Dreams. Almost everyone always keeps the same name for each one, but he gets a different one. But he has free range, +1 free range action, escalation range, ambidextrous, auto repair, and full auto. So we've already seen all those except for auto repair, which is just the space version of regeneration. During each tank phase, restores survivors' armor level to its base. And then we flip them over to see what Virus does. So once during each of your turns, while in a security room, you may choose one free door activation action in any zone on the board, or activate any machine action on the board as a free action. So this is very different because his second edition version, he gets basically free range, infinite range wherever, and not limited through zones. So in the space one, because I think the way the game works, because there's dark zones that you have to deal with more often, plus there's space zones and you can't shoot, like, even if he can see all the way out, if you have a, because the way the invaders works is if you're outside the space station on the planet, you cannot use bullet guns. You have to use electrical weapons. So I don't think they wanted to give him infinite range, because even if he could see all the way across the entire board, he still can't shoot a bullet into space, is essentially what they're saying. But an electrical weapon would work. So instead, they changed him so he's using cyborg abilities to hack doors and hack machines, which is actually just as cool. Also makes him play very different. So that way, if you liked him and you didn't like the infinite range, you might like this, or vice versa. So that's definitely cool. Otherwise, he has all the same other abilities. The other thing we will get for this is our abominations. So if we want to play with these, so we have 121, 22, 23, 24 for Cyborg Eddie, who actually does have special abilities in here. So if we get in here, they're going to have special rules. So we'll look at them in just a sec. And then we have 25, 26, 27, 28. So 4 of each of them. So they're generic or regular abominations. All abominations on the board contain 1 activation. If you have that particular zombie, spawn it. If you don't, nothing happens. Yeah, so it's kind of neat. So just helps get some extra stuff. So their specific abilities are: Cyborg Eddie has 1 action, deals 3 damage. To eliminate, takes 3 damage. So he has a little bit more extra. 5 experience points. Special rule: at the start of the Xeno phase, 1 survivor at a range of 0 to 2 takes a machine. Range 2 from a machine takes 1 damage. If there are no machines on the board, Cyborg Eddie moves 1 zone. So basically, even as an abomination, he just kind of utilizes the machines to help him out. And then Samurai Eddie deals 2 damage to eliminate 5 experience points. Special rules: at the end of the Xeno phase, Samurai Eddie eliminates the closest 9 abominations. Xeno deal 1 damage to the closest survivor. So he sacrifices something else to do damage, which works much like his other ones. So definitely cool. So that is all of the current Zombicide stuff we have. So the other stuff we're going to have are for the other 4 different CMON games. Which, of the 4, I only own 1 of them. So I can't get in too much detail about the rest, but we will go over them. So if you don't care about the non-Zombicide stuff, you can go ahead and end this video. Go check out parts 2 and 3 to see the other, the rest of the Iron Maiden stuff. Otherwise, we're going to jump into the other games. Alright, first of all, we're going to put back Reaper Eddie. We have Massive Darkness 2, which is the game I own. So we have roaming monsters. So these are, if you're not, I'm not going to go through all the detailed rules of this, but these are essentially the abominations of Massive Darkness. So each one is going to list some different stats on there. They're going to have health per hero up here, treasures they get, keys they unlock. Defense is what dice they roll. So like as they get more and more better, they get higher and higher stats on that. So he gets to roll 1 blue dice, 1 black dice, And his attack down here, he gets to roll 2 yellow dice and 2 black dice. And then he has some special abilities. If he rolls, so it says, if there's at least one hero in Reaper Eddie's zone, attack one hero. Otherwise, each hero moves one zone towards Reaper Eddie, ignoring the reaction damage. Gain 1 frost token. Then move Reaper Eddie 3 zones towards the closest hero. So basically, they're going to kind of gravitate towards him. And then he's going to move even farther towards them. And then if he's there, he's going to attack them. And that's kind of, because they're all AI controlled. This is explaining how they move around. And attack, if he gets 2 claws, he deals 1 frost token. Which that just slows people down. So these cards will have level 1 to 2. And then we will have a level 3 to 4, which is just a more powerful version. So essentially happens is items go up that you get. He has more health. Sometimes his dice go up as well. So he goes from 1 blue to 2 blue, and it goes from 2 yellow to 2 orange, which are just better dice. I think his abilities are going to stay the same each time. So then we have a level 5 version. 9, he says 3 treasure. His dice gets more dice. Then we have the 7 or 6 to 7. Same thing, more health, more dice. No longer hands out treasure though, apparently. It's very interesting. 8 to 9, a lot more health, a lot more better dice. So like the green dice are better than the blue, yellow dice are better than, or orange are better than yellow, red are better. They just have more better sides to them. Then finally we have the level 10, which is like his almost boss form. Yeah, so you just roll 8 dice or 6 dice per attack. But his ability stays the same each time. So that's 7 fun. If you have Massive Darkness 2, there's an additional character you can play there. Now, I do not own any of the other 3 games, so I can only talk a little bit about them. But we will go through them anyway. First up, let's go back to our Samurai Eddie. So, for Rising Sun, we'll have a spring card here, which is Samurai Eddie, so Rising Sun there. It's 1 monster card. It says, start the game in Edo and always under the control of a player at the highest honor. Eddie can never be destroyed. So Samurai Eddie can be used as a monster in the following... okay, unlike other monsters, Samurai Eddie isn't acquired by a clan and then summoned. He starts the game already on the board in Edo. I think I said Edo, but it's Edo. And is always under control of the clan with the highest honor. If another clan claims the highest honor, he immediately passes their control. So interesting. So he kind of like, instead of someone be able to find him or get him, he's loyal to whoever is the most powerful. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know how the game plays. I don't know if this is a really good card or not. Someone does play this in the comments. You can let me know if this is a really neat card. Or if he's just, maybe a little bit more generic. I don't have any idea. Alright, so then we're going to hop down to Undead Eddie. And we're going to look at an unknown monster for Cthulhu Death May Die. There's a logo for that. This is an unknown monster. So just place the spots in one of the 4 slots for the unknown monster dashboard. Shuffle the 4 unknown Mythos card in the Mythos dash and place Undead any figure in reserve. So it just gets you an extra Undead monster. So let's see what he says there. Looks like he has 5 health. He has a pool of 1 little monster on there. And his direction is unknown. Looks like a compass. He has 3 Elder Sign dice down here. When destroyed, summon him at the furthest gate. When the Elder One advances, Undead enemy moves 3 spaces towards you. If 9 on the board, summon him to your space. Interesting. Again, let's check the last one. I don't know how well this plays. If this is a really powerful card, if this is just a mediocre card, like this is maybe a base card you might put in if this is a difficult one. So yeah, if you play this, let me know in the comments. Definitely cool. I mean, if I decide to pick up these other games, I already have some extra bonus characters for them. Then the last one we have is we're going back up to big old Pharaoh Eddie. for Ankh. Alright, so Ankh, we have a tarot card. We have Ankh, Gods of Egypt, where you get 1 Pharaoh card and 1 Eddie Reigns Rules card. It says, when using the Pharaoh's expansion, so this is the only one that's a little bit odd, because not only does it require you to own the game, it requires you to use the expansion. All the other games, you own the base game, all of it, you can play it. So as Pharaoh setup, we have Eddie. Edward the Great. Use a Pharaoh Eddie figure instead of a regular Pharaoh. Place Pharaoh, the last player places Eddie Pharaoh adjacent to one of their monuments. And then he has the ability, he has Power Slave. Battle cards played against the Pharaoh and Eddie's region have the bonus effect. Check the Pharaoh Eddie's reign card for the specific effect of each card. Okay, so he's going to have some different effects when you play against him. And Risen, again, if a player dominates Pharaoh Eddie's region, the player reclaims all of their battle point cards and political cards. Sphinx's Riddle. For each Sphinx you control, you may gain 1 follower or reclaim one of the used political or battle cards. It says he follows usual Pharaoh rules with his own special rules listed on the card. Most notable, he has extra effects to all battle cards played on his region as indicated on his Eddie's Reign cards. When resolving a battle in his region, the order of the resolution of some cards becomes relevant. When you play multiple players, play Plague of Locusts or Cycle of Ankh. Resolve them in reverse devotion order. Alright, so let's look at what this does. So it says, all battle cards played in Pharaoh Eddie's region have a bonus effect. Drought. Each of your figures in the region counts as being in a desert space. Flood. Each of your figures in the region counts as being in a fertile space. Build Monument. After resolving this, gain 1 follower for each monument you control anywhere. Miracle. +2 devotion if 3 or more of your figures were killed during this battle. Plague of Locusts. You may select your bid after all other players reveal their bid for this card. Cycle of Ankh. At the end of this battle, you may also take 1 political card, refill its slot. Chariots, add 2 strength for this battle. Interesting. I don't know what any of that means. I've even read some of the rules for this game, and I still don't know what any of that means. This is kind of funny then. So I'm guessing this is part of the song. Tell me why I had to be a power slave. I don't want to die. I'm a god. Why can't I live on? When the life giver dies, all around is laid waste. In my last hour, I'm a slave to the power of death. Interesting. That's kind of cool. The only card that actually has like a bunch of lyrics on it. I'm glad they didn't. He's probably just at a backside and they didn't know what to do with it, maybe. But I'm glad they didn't like really push that on every single card. Alright, so that is what we have for box number 1. Scooch this stuff back over the way. So that's Iron Maiden pack number 1. Yeah, so if you're looking for some interesting new cards for at least Zombicide 2nd edition, you pick this up. All but one of them have a card for that. Which is for some reason, oddest reason, which is Samurai Eddie. But even if not, you can get some extra equipment cards for some of the games if you have some of the other ones. Now, I would say if you own a bunch of the Zombicide, maybe you own 2 or 3 of them, definitely a great pickup to get. Even if you just own 2nd edition, it's not too bad. I would say, though, if you only own one of these, it's probably not picking up for 1 extra card unless you're that desperate for it. Or if you're just a huge Iron Maiden fan, you want some little miniatures to stick around your house. Definitely cool. Check out the other 2 videos. See you guys later. Bye.